Another book review. This one, Watch My Back, the fantastic Watch My Back by Geoff Thompson. Um, I should prep more for these reviews, but I don't like to. I like to be slightly spontaneous. But I'm trying to remember when I first got lent a copy. These days I've got it on my Kindle, my ebook reader, But I got lent a copy of this more than 2 decades ago, definitely 25 years ago. I was doing some building work. I remember one of the guys I was working with, another labourer, lent me a dog-eared paperback. Um, yeah, I mean, anyone who's got who's into martial arts very well have heard Geoff Thompson's name. I mean, he's done loads of things as well as being one of the world's most sort of respected martial artists with high Dan rankings in various martial arts, and he's done seminars with Chuck Norris and all that. He's released films. He's written books, obviously, novels and stuff, as well as self help type stuff. That can start off this review. He details a very his troubles with mental health, anxiety, depression. It's not. I don't want to put too many spoilers in. He was sexually abused as a boy, as a child, as an 11-year-old boy. It's very, he doesn't. Well, he certainly, he shows what happened. Should we say? He relates what happened, and it's obviously it's sickening. And he has this sort of big bundle of shit basically to deal with, and he tries to deal with it through training and stuff, and ultimately he realizes he has to confront his fears, and he stands up to some people, including his first wife. Ultimately, that was I appreciate it wasn't a great time, divorce and stuff, but it's quite, it's like almost like his first wife seems to be quite overbearing, and he finally stood up to her and all this sort of thing. But anyway, the thing that sort of powers the book through is his fear of violent confrontation, which leads to him getting a job on the door of a nightclub in Coventry, which is a city in the north of England, and like a lot of cities in England, well, probably in the world, but can be rather rough. And he gets a job on this door as a doorman, and doesn't at first. The other guys just do not rate him. They say that he didn't look the part and stuff. Um, he's working for a lot of bodybuilders and stuff. He's at a time, I think he's got a black belt. He does kung fu and stuff, and he's literally a lot of the time he freely relates. He's absolutely petrified, and he has stomach problems and all these things resulting from trying to face down his fears. But ultimately, he becomes the thing that he feared. He becomes this. Well, I don't want to give too much, but he becomes like everyone knows his name and what he can do. They know what he can do, and he proves it any number of times. And that's his next. He has to change before like the dark envelopes him too much, shall we say? But I shan't say too much there. I don't want to give too much of the book away. It's a fascinating arc or progression. It will make it makes uncomfortable reading for a lot of martial artists. I have to say, one time I remember I watched a video. The guy Ramsey Dewey, who makes great videos and all that, and well respected martial artist and all that. But I remember one video was like he did this thing: if you don't do martial arts, you can't fight. I thought, yeah, right, go and talk to Geoff Thompson and say that, because Geoff Thompson's on the door and he says he has. I think he says most of the martial arts I'd learnt was as much use as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. And the head doorman, I think a chap called John, had never done a day's martial arts training in his life. Obviously, it's hard as nails, but it's psychology, all these things. I personally I can't talk about because I've never experienced it. Thank God, So I can't. But to quote Geoff Thompson, especially throwing the first blow, or having and not showing that you're scared, and it was like the duck. You appear calm and serene on the surface, but underneath it, your legs, metaphorically speaking, but basically, I think would mean your innards, or you tap your foot, you're talking to someone, or you do some repetitive movement, because otherwise you'd be shaking. It's just something to concentrate the body. All these sort of things. So, and it's true. People say, "Oh, you haven't had training or something." I mean, some people are just naturally tough. Um, yes. So, and it dispenses it blows apart a lot of the martial arts myth, that a lot of the stuff, block and strike, and a lot of, I don't know what you call it, takedowns or body locks and stuff, they just don't work. I mean, that's something I knew already, but against a resisting partner with any degree of strength. Or another line I believe is from his book is, in a fight between a 10.5 stone Japanese karate expert and a 14 stone Irish welder who's pissed off and has had 5 pints of Guinness, always put your money on the welder. Just sheer aggression and adrenaline, and the weight difference. People say size doesn't matter and stuff. Absolutely does. So yeah, he's not afraid, and he just rubbishes. He's Geoff Thompson. I mean, he's been there. He's got the t-shirt, so to speak. I mean, I've seen interviews with him, and in fact, I exchanged a few emails from I featured him in my book. Plug my book, A Guide to Famous Martial Artists, and I also included him. And I sent him a copy and a couple of stories, also written short stories, and he very kindly replied back. And he was offering me like stuff from his website, like martial art. This is about 15 years ago. He was offering like DVDs and stuff, and I was, well, thanks very much. That's extremely kind of you, but thanks to your good self, that's the reason I can write stuff like this, and I've learned so much. So, I don't really want to take anything more. So, and I've seen interviews of him most recently on James English, the Scottish podcast guy. And very gently spoken, intelligent, thoughtful man. For the the other side, the fighting expert, and then the rest. He's a fascinating individual in many ways. But I would, I think the book's sold well over 1 million copies now, and I'll just keep repeating myself, but it blows apart these myths of it will make a lot of martial artists feel uncomfortable when they do this stuff in the safety of the dojo. And there's, Geoff Thompson, he does all these things like the pavement arena, and he's going to work on the pavement arena outside the chip shop at 11:30 on a Saturday night. You want to pressure test it, and way back again, maybe 15 years ago, a guy, Danny, was very hard Scots, very nice guy as well. But Danny, he'd studied under Geoff Thompson. He did these things. It came from the Geoff Thompson school. It's called Animal Days, where he used to say like, anything goes. I mean, you wouldn't go in with full power or the person, but it'd be like suddenly he'd make 3 guys go on one person, and everyone just slightly pulling their punches, as it were. So there wasn't blood and mayhem in the dojo or the training hall. But all these sort of things, we just push it just so it's not just a complete free fall, but it's very, very real. And there's no sort of well, someone does this and you do that and then you do that. It's not going to work. But touch wood, no one's going to ever have to find that out. But a wake up call for a lot of martial artists. Yeah, really. I'm going to read it again soon. I think I'll go back to it every few years. It's just the stories just keep coming throughout the book. As I say, building up to there's dark stuff, there's funnier stuff, there's stuff where definite unpleasant people, bullies and stuff, definitely get their comeuppance, but all the time there's this darkness underneath of what Geoff Thompson is becoming. So he has to basically face that's his ultimate, almost what he's got to face down, and no one wants anything more than that. But it just makes for a fascinating tale, and it's fully legit. There's no doubt he is exactly what he says he is, and he doesn't big himself up either. You can tell when someone's just done it. They don't need to brag or boast. In fact, quite a lot of the time it's the opposite. He's a very modest man, but he tells it as it is, as it were. So that's Watch My Back by Geoff Thompson. You can Google him, YouTube him, you see definitely what he's about on Amazon and stuff. And that book is definitely worth a read, in my humble opinion. Okay, cheers.